What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another week of Thought Provoking Conversations. I'm one of your hosts, Irvin Ramirez, here, and then to my left is the lovely Yaid Puente with the Pikachu right next to his head there in the background. Yaid, how we doing today?
Good, doing good, man. Doing good, as always. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Just sore. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel that. It's a good place to be.
oh yeah, yeah. Um, so this week we were gonna have an interview, but we kind of planned it kind of late, and we're gonna have to move it to next week, hopefully. Um, so you're stuck with us again for a third week in a row, just us. Um, so we didn't really plan ahead on what this was gonna be about. So we'll see where this conversation takes us and where we end up. But yeah. Do you have any words for the people?
I have no idea what to expect. I have
Yeah,
no expectations right now.
me neither. But I guess I'll start you off with this. Right? Let's dive into our lifting world, our exercise world. You know, you and I have you got me to go back to the gym, right? Our sophomore year, right? Was it sophomore? Yeah, it was sophomore year um, of college because I had been a lazy piece of shit and just ate on campus all the time, gained a bunch of weight, and I was just getting fat in general. Um, and then you finally got me to go in the gym, and I kind of fell in love with working out and lifting weights and stuff like that. Um, and we worked out together, did various programs together for a good amount of time, and we still continue our fitness journey now. So I'm gonna ask you, what kind of keeps you motivated still to do some sort of fitness, um, or why do you think that was a priority of ours for so long? I know you had PT and stuff like that, but there's a lot of people that have their PT and don't do anything besides that. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's those people. You know, it's a good question, man, because it's something that like I have kind of ebbs and flows. So I'll have moments where I'm really on top of my game.
mhm,
Doing good things, and then at other times I'm like, when was the last time I went to the gym? I don't even
yeah,
remember.
mhm,
So it's kind of one of those things, and you kind of notice that pattern in almost all facets of your life too. But I don't know, man. There's just something about going into the gym and getting the pump going. Like you can be in any emotion really whatsoever. You can be pissed, you can be sad, you can be you know just having a good day, having a bad day, whatever like your attitude is. You go into the gym and I don't know, it almost gives you like a way to get it off your chest or something. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like it throw heavy shit around. Hey man, and it's just I don't know. It's something that I've come to enjoy. Originally, it started off as like I needed a place to take my anger, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and there's just a lot of things in my personal life at the time in sophomore year where I was like, you know what? I'm angry all the time. I got all these emotions stuck inside, and I could talk to you about it, and I could talk to a couple other bros,
Mhm.
but like the amount of times it was gonna take me for me to talk it out and get it out of my system,
It's
just
gonna take too
didn't
long.
seem, yeah, it didn't seem very doable, especially with the course load that I had at the time, and
Yep.
the things that I was doing on the weekend. And so I was like, you know what? Nah, dude, something I gotta do something about this, right? And so
Yep.
started working out and noticed like how much fun I would have, how much fun we would have, right?
Mhm.
And is it was super fun, man. Like going through that and being able to just like crank out like a really good workout and then go home afterwards and just chill out, go to sleep,
Take our
and get
mass
infinite.
gainers.
Yeah, take our mass gainers. Oh my gosh, dude, I still remember that big ass bag that we had. You
Yeah,
chug
the
one of
top of
those.
our fridge.
Yeah, at the top of the fridge, dude.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And and so like back then it was, it was motivated because I needed to do something, right? It was
Hmm.
I had all this extra energy lying around and it was, starting to get in the way between me and my sleep and I wasn't sleeping very well. And
Hmm.
that could have also been like emotional reasons and, mental reasons, but you certainly do sleep a lot better once you've smoked yourself for 2 hours additionally, like
Hmm.
2 PT, and you sleep like a baby afterwards. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Just crawl under those covers and you're done, out like a light.
Hmm.
And so it was fun. And I had the time. No, I didn't really have the time to do it, but I made the time to do it. You know what I mean?
It's a priority.
Yeah, it became a priority, and it was cool. It was fun watching my body kind of grow, and I was getting stronger, watching my numbers kind of pop up. And it's funny because I didn't do everything I would say correctly. Like
Hmm.
there is plenty of things that I could have changed. Like one with bench, I would bounce the weight off my chest a little bit,
Hmm.
get my sternum into it. Now I know that's not proper form and I should be a little bit more, cognizant and respectful of my sternum and the fact that it hasn't broken yet,
Yeah.
I'd like to keep it not broken. And just little things that you kind of pick up along the way by talking to people that kind of know more than you, and they're willing to kind of speak to you. And it's interesting because there's a lot of people that just kind of just bond over working out,
Hmm.
right? It's kind of like playing a sport together, right?
Yep.
Except the sport here is getting swole, right? Getting swole,
Go to
going
the
to the
glorious
glorious.
house of gains.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, the glorious House of Games, man, and it's good stuff, man. It's,
Hmm.
it's, it's good as long as you can get past the initial 2 weeks of sucking. Oh my God, the soreness in the first 2 weeks are terrible. Yeah.
Hmm.
It takes a different kind of animal to get through those 2 weeks. But after that, like you kind of embrace the soreness. That's how you know you put in a lot of work. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's like to me, I enjoy it. Like it sucks moving around, and I
Hmm.
promise you, like I did abs today, and I'm probably not gonna be able to breathe on myself tomorrow, or it's gonna hurt to breathe. But I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
I mean, I got a good workout in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All the different
So,
challenges that we've done together,
oh God,
like 1,000 rep arm challenge. You know,
I remember that one.
that
That
one
one
was
was rough.
rough.
Yeah, I couldn't fully extend my arms for a while.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like 4 days I couldn't extend my arms. There was that one. There was the 52 card
The
challenge.
52 card challenge.
That one was rough too. Um, let's see, what are some other ones that we've done?
Uh,
Um, remember the 250 rep challenge?
the 250 rep challenge with Lil Miguel joined us, and he died.
Dude, he couldn't even move the next day. I remember
Hmm.
he texted me. He was so concerned. He's like, "Bro, I can't move." I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Oh man, dude, I'm sorry, bro. You should
I,
not have joined us on that day."
I don't know how he agreed to join us in the first place.
I think we hyped him up. I think we hyped him up, and we gave him pre-workout.
You're
He
right.
was they're terrible influences, dude. Oh, he didn't know. We didn't know.
No, we
Oh,
didn't know.
no, we didn't. Not at all.
I could
Let's
probably
see.
rep that out a lot better now than I could back then.
Yeah, I can pace myself a lot more.
Yeah.
The last time I didn't breathe, I remember that. That was a
Yeah,
mistake.
you
Oh God.
your head was gonna explode
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah. Pretty sure I gave myself a hernia or something, dude.
Probably.
I herniated my brain. Oh, that was rough. What's some other ones that we've done? I know we've done more than that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
I guess together, like, because I know you did the marathon, didn't you? Or you tried to do the marathon?
oh yeah, I tried. I couldn't finish it.
Yeah,
My body would not agree and just stopped. Like it was like, nope,
yeah.
we can't go.
And you try the gauntlet too.
The gauntlet too. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh God.
during that time, where we got introduced to our
That's rough. That'd be rough.
to sidewalk cracker,
Yeah, CT.
CT,
Oh man. Yeah, CT.
OG
That
sidewalk
pre-workout was
cracker.
gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a little piece of his soul in every
Yeah,
scoop.
yeah, every scoop.
It was the worst tasting pre-workout of all time, though.
The watermelon one was good though. Yeah, I wish we would have been able to get the watermelon one. We played ourselves and got the blue raz. Try to
And it
play
was
it safe.
so bad.
It's disgusting, dude. I remember every time you took it, you
uh,
always like threw up in your mouth a little bit. And I was like, damn, dude, the fact that you still took it even after doing that, I was like, you're an animal.
the effects of it were just so majestic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Some of my best lifts were on CT's pre-workout.
Some of what?
Some of the best lifts I think I've ever had in terms of just like emotion and just feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I agree.
I can't say I usually come close to crying when I'm benching, but listening to CT and like one of his motivational speeches or something,
Yep.
and then while on sidewalk cracker, while doing bench too, because he was always about bench and arms.
Or some curls or something.
Yeah, or doing some curls, hopping on that preacher bar,
Mhm.
that preacher doing the preacher curls. Yeah, life.
Freaking wild. Gosh. I remember Mr. Hyde. Heard Mr.
Yeah,
Hyde
dude,
small endeavor.
yeah. Oh my gosh, my friend right now takes Mr. Hyde. Took a scoop of that
And
the other day, dude. I was wired. Oh, I was telling him, it's like, dude, if anybody looks at me funny, I'm just gonna start fighting. Mr. Hyde, man, it's a different
True.
animal, dude. It's just 400 and I think they changed the formulation too. It's 421 milligrams of caffeine now.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it went up like 3 grams since we.
What about the rest of the stuff that's in there?
Oh God, I have no idea. I mean, they call it the Nitro X blend now, so
Whatever the fuck that means.
yeah, I have no idea what it means, but hey, whatever, man.
It was a good time. Much
Yeah,
simpler times then. Kind of.
yeah, yeah. What about you, man? What I mean, what keeps you going back now?
Yeah. Um, I think for a long time it was just like body image issues, like just hating how I looked. Um, but I think eventually it just kind of formed into having a larger purpose for lifting, right? And I think I focus on that more now, like where I don't really worry too much about numbers or stuff. Like it's still nice to move big weight, but to me it's more about just breaking through that adversity, right? Like just continuously pushing your mind past what it thinks it can do. Um, so it's more just focusing on like having a bigger purpose at the gym than just getting swole, I guess, at this point. For me, it's more of like I know for a long time I would go in there and when I when I was kind of warming up, I was thinking like, okay, what am I lifting for today? And I'd be like, all right, so today I'm gonna lift and dedicate this to me being a better father someday, right? For me to be a better husband someday, for me to be a better brother, to be a better leader, to be a better whatever. Like it was always just kind of focusing on that and trying to find those type of more intrinsic type of motivations to get me through the workouts. Because then it gave me more of a reason to kind of push myself. Because when you're lifting and you're not in a serious health concern where you have to like lift or do exercise to live or you're competing, it's a lot harder to kind of get yourself to get through all the workouts, right? Because there's no real end game, really. So to me, it was just pushing myself to be just a better human or a better person.
How do you think I guess you kind of talked a little bit about it, but I guess I kind of want to see if you'll add anything to it. But why do you, or what about lifting do you think translates over into just the general part of life?
I think, I think a lot of it, pushing yourself past your boundaries type of thing, having confidence in yourself, learning how to fail, I think is the biggest thing, right? Because you're not going to get every weight that you try. And if you do, then you're not trying hard enough. Like you're not really pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But, failing in weightlifting is welcome, right? Because that means, oh, cool, like this is where I know I'm at now, right? Um, Now I know what I had to try to work towards to get better, type of thing. And failing is kind of almost kind of encouraged, right? So that you can really gauge where you're at and know how to move forward. And I don't think in most other areas failing is as embraced as a positive thing. You know what I mean?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean that like I mean failure is encouraged in lifting, yes. But why do you think or why do you feel that failure is not encouraged in other places? So what has been your experience?
Because failure in any other aspect, I would say, is a negative thing, right? Like let's say you fail an exam, not a good thing, right? If you fail, um, I don't know, if you fail and lose a game, right? Not a good thing. If you fail and you don't meet your sales quota or something, you might get fired, type of thing, right? So it's often failure. I would say just in most other areas in life are just added pressures and stresses, um, that often lead to negative consequences. For most people, a lot of people, well, not some people do take their failures as a way to get better, right? But I would say probably the majority of people will see failures as a bad thing. Um, but I think with the people I surround myself with, and especially in the gym, just failure is just you pick someone up and you're like, hey, good job, way to try to get that max. It's cool you didn't get it, you'll get it next time, type of thing. Like it's never as stigmatized in the weight room as it is anywhere else, I would say.
Yeah, I suppose so. You know, yeah, I think you're. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think you're right that people tend to assign a failure as being negative.
Mm-hmm.
It probably doesn't have to be that way, but I think it has just kind of been almost like it's kind of like one of those things where everybody kind of agrees that failure is a bad thing, until
Mm-hmm.
somebody tells you otherwise. Like I remember the first time I heard like failure isn't the problem, failing forward when I read that book by John Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting concept. And it's something that I see a lot more frequently now is failure is means that you're at the edges of your limit, right? And that's where the growth happens, right? I think that's an interesting perspective. And I think you're right with that regards. Just lifting is always about finding that outer edge of your boundaries, right? It's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
tangible than it is in real life because it's like how do you grow in relationships? You have to experience a little bit of hardship here and there. You have to see where you're uncomfortable, where they're uncomfortable, and see how you guys can grow in that regards, like mending the relationship so that it can get through those difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's just one example, right? There's a million ways a human can grow, right? Um, yeah, man, I think it's true. I mean, uh, it's you bring an interesting perspective because I've had like those body issues, and I still check myself out in the mirror when I
Mm-hmm.
go lift just because I like seeing myself at the pump. I'm like, damn, dude, look at those arms. About this, you're one good sneeze away from going shirtless, bro. I say that to square around. I'm not that big, but it's I don't know, man. It's fun. It's fun for that part, but at the same time, it's like I know, my nutrition isn't where it should be, and I still got a little pudge on me, and
Mm-hmm.
is it kind of does it upset me? I wouldn't say as much anymore. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I used to be a lot more self-conscious back in the day, back in college. Um, but hey, I'm married. It is what it is. She
Mm-hmm.
kind of has to accept me now. So it's like, what am I what am I really lifting for?
Yep.
I suppose that's a good question to have. And I don't know, man. I think I definitely, part of me really agrees with you in saying that, looking for that other part, that mental adversity, right? Because, it takes a pretty significant amount of like desire to want to go work out, right?
Yep.
Especially if like tired, you have all these other things to do. It's easy to let working out be like a extraneous thing or like a something that you can get around to at any point, right? Um, it's too easy to skip once you start skipping it, especially if you don't have like a legitimate like hard reason, like something that's kind of like lit that fire under your ass for you to, get your ass in
To
the
get
gym.
in. Yep.
Even then, that fades.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I guess always finding how is this going to better serve you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just dedicating that workout to you getting a six pack or you getting that extra 5 pounds on your max, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's more so to be a better person, right? To challenge yourself, to see how you can grow today,
Mm-hmm.
where that growth can take you, see how it can make you a better all around individual. Yeah, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
intriguing.
And
It's
then I
cool.
think like the whole mindset behind failing, right? Like we said, like in the normal world, I guess, out in the real world is just most often not people will correlate that with a bad emotion, right? Like it's just like failing is bad, right? But I think with the gym, I think especially with like the gym and weightlifting or exercise in general, you get to get a lot of reps of failing and not having it be a bad thing, right? And it just allows you to kind of get that tool in your toolbox to be able to kind of reframe the concept of failure in your everyday life to when maybe before you thought everything where you failed was a bad thing, you could reframe it and kind of think of it in a positive way or how you can learn from it, right? So I think I agree that failure as a bad thing. I don't really necessarily see my failures as a bad thing, just as a way to grow. But I don't think I would have adopted that mindset if I didn't practice that literally all the time, like in the gym, right? Because that's a skill that you have to kind of develop. It's not just a thing you can quickly be like, all right, yeah, cool. I'll just take that way now. Like it's something you have to put in practice. And I think challenging yourself in the gym and doing that is just it's like one of the easiest ways you can sharpen that skill.
Yeah, I think you bring up a valid point with that. You got to practice it somewhere, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, well, I don't know. I would say that for me, it's not really. Like, I can't say I translated all the way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, because I can really only speak for myself in this part, and that's failing in the gym is easy. When it's over, I can just shrug it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I didn't get 240 on bench. All right, it is what it is. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll be pissed about it for a second, and I'll go like curl some weight or something, and you know, just do something and then I'll kind of forget about it. But like when it comes to something else, like I don't carry that reframe over with me, right? Because
Yep.
I don't know, it's a different, it uses as it's like using different muscles, right? And I say muscles with quotes because it's, I guess in a way it doesn't quite feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like when you're doing maxing, you have a spotter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have somebody there that's gonna, kind of pick you up when you get down. To me, like when I go through life, like my failures are kind of my own,
Yeah.
and it's in a different sense. It just kind of feels like it's more's on the line, especially if it's like school with like just my future kind of weighing on it,
Mm-hmm.
and or if it's other stuff like maybe trying to have a conversation with the patient or something, or whatever the case may be. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like they just to me, it feels like there's more on the line, and it's hard for me to approach it with the same sense because when I'm maxing out, it's like it's only me, right? But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I start making kind of decisions for other people, because that they're either my subordinates or they're following me, or maybe it's my family, and I'm trying to make sure I take care of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it brings up a whole different kind of like variable within it. Then it's not just responsibility for myself; it's responsibility for multiple people,
Yeah.
and that's where I start to kind of see myself like I start sweating a little more. I start thinking it's like failure here is gonna do more than just you know cost me what I can say is my max, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even as I do say that, I do understand that regardless, you got to start somewhere with the idea of working with failure, right? So
Yep.
I think you're absolutely right about that. It's a place to begin,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and that I can't argue with that. I certainly feel a lot working out.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's not easy applying that to your everyday life, to every situation that you have come up. But I feel, like you said, you have to start somewhere. So starting in a more controlled, more welcomed area will help you kind of at least figure out where to start or how some of the principles of just accepting failure and learning from it and growing from it can be applied somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I agree.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the so I met with my the success coach that I work with today,
Yeah.
and we had like a really nice conversation about what how do you kind of overcome that temptation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Temptation, and I'm defining temptation by, let's say you can make a choice, right? You have choice A, you have choice B, and
Okay.
choice A is the one that
You need to do.
is, I want to say you need to do it. It's the
Okay.
one that you kind of want to do, but
Okay.
it's not going to be good for you, right? So
Okay.
maybe let's say it's the pizza when you're on a diet, right? It's
Mm.
the going out and drinking a beer with your friends when you should be studying, right? It's the
Okay.
the Fortnite when you should be studying, right?
Hey, how's
That's
it
right.
going?
Talking about you right there. I'm just kidding.
Who?
And then the other one, plan B, right? Or path B is, the road that's going to keep you on the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
The path to whatever it is that your goal is. And maybe that goal is becoming a better person. I think that's a very good goal. It's a very good goal to have,
Mm-hmm.
right? Although you do have to define what a good person is, and but for right now, for all intents and purposes, it seems to work. And there's, at least in my experience, right? This is all talking from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When I have this decision between these two things, right? It doesn't come up like black and white, like I can just make a pros and cons list, right? First,
Yep.
it comes up kind of like a little sneak, like it just kind of like crawls up like the back of your mind, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Like you should do that over there. You see that pizza? You should go get that pizza.
You look
Or
real good over
yeah, oh yeah, you smell that? Ooh. And it's like it's like you get this weird kind of energy, right? You start to feel like, oh, I kind of want that pizza, you know, or oh, I
there.
kind of want to go do this thing over here that I know is going to take me away from my path, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I end up having an inner dialogue. I'm like, fuck, okay, I recognize this, and my first inclination is to fight it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let you win, right? Just use willpower and just be like, pop, pop, put in a headlock and try to figure it out and try to kind of like suppress it, you know, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But then it gets stronger. Then he, you know, maybe you win that round, right? But then he
Mm-hmm.
comes back with friends, and he just like, you know, starts beating you up because now, you know, now the day has kind of drug on, and you've been thinking about that pizza all day, and you're like, man, I only got chicken breast and rice at home. Like I don't really want to eat that, but that pizza sounds good. And you know,
True.
decision fatigue kind of sets in a little bit, and your willpower doesn't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you know, I was really curious because it was like, well, you know, kind of what does it mean to just accept something, right? To like accept one of those emotions, that energy, that feeling that you want to do something that you know you shouldn't, right? Because
Yep.
what a lot of people say is if you resist something, it persists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more you fight, the more you want to like just use straight willpower and dominate it and put it back into wherever it came from. Like
Mm-hmm.
the more it multiplies, the more it wants to make you do the thing that you don't want to do, right?
Correct.
And so, but at the same time, it's like, what does it mean to accept? Because the thing that I would do is like I've noticed that it's there, like that emotion, that desire, that temptation, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to forget about it,
Okay.
or I try to see it and accept that it's there. But then I try to be like, but I'm not going to do that, right? I still inject my willpower in some way, shape, or form, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
just minorly, right? Like it's hard to not just want to be like, nah, dude, I got to put you back in that bottle, right? You know what I
Yep.
mean? I'm trying to hide you. And so like, what is accepting, you know, whatever the case may be, right? And not necessarily putting like a positive or negative label on it, because I find that I do that very, very fast. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm very quick to label stuff. I'm really, oh God, that's such a rough time. Oh,
Yep.
oh yeah, did that. That's such a good time. You know what I mean? That sounds
Mm-hmm.
awesome, right? And it's like it's not that black and white. You know, sometimes it's just objective and kind of, you know, we kind of apply that whether it's a positive or negative experience, it comes from us, right? And you know, there are some things at the edges of what I'm saying that, you know, I would argue I can't really address because, you know, I don't know. I don't know the answer to what happens in tragedy, right? I don't know what the answer is if somebody dies, like how can that be considered a good thing, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, what if they're struggling with like some disease, right? And you know, it
Mm-hmm.
gets rid of their pain, you know what I mean? And it's,
Yep.
you know, I don't know. It could go either way, man. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's not something that I'm qualified to talk about, that's for sure.
Fair enough.
So for me, it's more the minor stuff that kind of gets me. It's the things that take up my time, right? Maybe scrolling through Google News for like 45 minutes, right? Maybe checking my email constantly, trying to get an
Mm-hmm.
email, or you know, um, those are really kind of some of my bigger ones. But so, yeah, so I mean, I just kind of spouted a lot of words at you, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole concept of just like temptations and just distractions, right? Like it's those everyday kind of battles that, like you say, you have the two choices, right? You can either one is what you want to do, and one is like what you should do. Um, it is very difficult to just to fight it, right? Because, like you said, when you fight it, you feel like it it evolves, right? Like it attacks you in different angles, and it almost wins just purely based on the distraction that it causes you to have to ignore it, right? Like just like that alone is caught like taking away enough energy to that doesn't even matter whether you end up doing it or not because you wasted a lot of energy even thinking about it. So yeah, I think like you were saying, just the like the concept of just having to like face it, right? Like having to acknowledge is there. It's kind of like when you meditate, right? Like they say like when you're meditating you want to like think of not like want to just not think of anything, right? Like and if you're just sitting there taking deep breaths and then you have a thought pop in your head, you know, you kind of just observe it, see what it does, right? And then eventually you just kind of see it, like acknowledge it, and then just kind of brush it off type of thing, right? Like it's more of a kind of allow your body to naturally kind of dissolve that thought, right? And let you get back into what the state of just breathing, basically. I think personally that's what I try to do when I have distractions. I would say I fail often in that, you know, and it's obviously not an easy thing to do, or else I'd be the most productive human ever. But um, I think that's the way I most like to think about it when it comes to doing that and dealing with distractions. You know, just try to acknowledge it, not try to fight it necessarily. You know, give it the attention that it seeks from my brain, but then allow it to also freely just walk out too. Kind of just like a flowing river. You know, if you see something flowing down the river, you know, it'll be there for a little while, but eventually just kind of pass. So it's just kind of just allowing yourself to kind of just be the distraction of that and just kind of almost feel it as its presence or its pull on you just kind of dissipate as time kind of goes.
Hey man, you know, that it's so much easier when you say it than doing it, man. Because I
Oh, I agree.
suck at it. Oh, I agree. Yeah, man. Oh, dude, it's just like I was talking to Michael, that's his name, and I was like, man, you know, my first inclination is always to fight it, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the first feeling, and it's one of those things that these temptations have been around for very many years at this point. I get kind of pulled by the same kind of subset of things, you know,
Hmm.
to eat up my time, right?
Yeah.
And in those small subset of things, I always kind of respond in the same way, right?
Hmm.
I've tried to incorporate new skills or whatever, but you know, the fact of the matter is like the habit loop that I've created with regards to what I do in response to one of these temptations.
Hmm.
It's a pretty strong habit loop right now, man. Like it's become a bit of a canyon, and trying to change the river's course with a canyon pretty
Yeah.
damn hard. It's pretty damn hard.
I
And
agree.
so I'm just, you know, in a way, you know, I'm glad I'm working on it now because, you know, by the time I'm 50, there's no way in hell I'll be able to change one of these habits, right? That's why it's so
You're right.
hard for people that have been doing it for years, you know, whatever it is, drinking, smoking,
Hmm.
whatever other addictions you can possibly have, which are a lot. The more time you do it, man, the more time you solidify that habit loop, the stronger it is for you to continue doing that same thing, right? Kind of
Hmm.
habit machines.
Yeah, it's hard to break that cycle, you know, and it's I don't think it's a skill that most people ever fully get, right? I think in order to be fully, not even like 100% um, capable of ignoring all distractions, but you know, it takes very powerful mental strength, mental fortitude to kind of be able to do that. You know, and like I guess when I think of that, I just think of like you know monks or you know people who meditate a large portion of their days or a lot of portions of their lives, right? And that they can have that, and you know the rest of us common folk are just not at that level, right? But I think it's just kind of I think the most important thing is that that you win more often than you lose, right? You're gonna get got, but you just gotta get yours more than you get got, man. That's all. That's all it is, right? Like I think part of life is just accepting the fact that you're not gonna win them all, but just as long as you're winning more often than losing, then you'll be
Yeah,
okay.
that's the biggest part. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fair. Yeah, man, that's been one of the things that I've been thinking on. That's one of my missions for this month is I'm supposed to reflect on what it means to accept whatever it is that's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does one be objective to life rather than just go ahead and attaching meaning to everything and deciding whether it's good or evil,
Yeah.
good or bad? 'Cause I mean, who the fuck am I to decide, right? You know how
Mm-hmm.
many times something that I've labeled as bad turned out to be good, and how many times I labeled something as good only to find out that it was the worst thing that could have happened. It happens, man.
It does happen,
You know?
but part of life, I guess.
I was reading this book. I've mentioned it many times on here already, but Carl Jung's on the undiscovered self
Mm-hmm.
or discovering the self, something like that. I think that's the title. Um, and it was chapter 6, and it was self knowledge. And he's talking about what it means to have self knowledge, and he's kind of talking about when somebody has attained self knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
he will have succeeded in deeming himself worthy of serious attention and sympathetic interest. And you know that I don't know why I wrote that one down, aside from the fact that like it made a lot of interesting thoughts come to my head, especially with regards to the fact that how kind of self-depreciative I was in a lot of my life.
Okay.
Um, just because like you know I always would rather do things for other people than do stuff for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's one of those things. It's like ultimately, you as an individual, you matter as well, right?
Uh-huh.
Because the impact that you have is directly proportional to the power that you have within yourself, right? And the power that you have within yourself it starts with you, right? Nobody's going to give it to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? That kind of influence begins with you kind of making yourself worth it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever worth it may mean to you. And to me, it means like, you know, like one of the, I finally started putting posters up in my little office.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have one of Jordan Peterson up there. But there's two that really come to mind with regards to the 12 rules of life, right?
Okay.
One is treat yourself like you're somebody you're responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, which is um, put your house in order before you go ahead and criticize somebody else's.
Okay.
And I think of those a lot, man, because you know I felt like one of the things that I was always told, right, is that you gotta do it for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta, I wanted to, go to school so to make sure that my parents' sacrifice wasn't in vain, right? That was my answer to most questions I got during school.
Mm-hmm.
When they asked me like, why am I here? What am I doing? What I'm doing?
Yep.
And that sounds like a good answer too, but because at the same time, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't do things for other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying when you do a little bit for yourself, it allows you to help that much more other people. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was something really important for me to realize um, because taking care of myself shouldn't be a chore, right? It shouldn't be like a responsibility that I'm only doing because I can't help somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, and and yeah, and so like that's one of the things that I've really begun to think a lot about
Mm-hmm.
because um, you know, ultimately it's like believing you're worth helping, because I think it's far too easy to kind of fall into this belief that you're not worth helping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was easy for me to fall there, right? So, and I mean, who am I, right? I don't really know what are the struggles that other people have, but I know it's sometimes it's a little too easy to for me to fall into this trap of rather do things for other people and give other people, you know, that advice that I'm not following myself.
Yeah.
And and which is why, you know, I don't do much of the same things that I used to do. You know what I mean? And it's been one of those things where I felt like you know, I have to be a little bit more, I guess, responsible with how I, you know, one, view myself, and two, treat myself, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that I have about myself and the way I portray myself to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because, you know, it's one of those things where I'm a lot better than I say I am. Um, and sometimes it's okay to kind of let yourself, you know, see that, right?
Yeah.
There's no point in letting yourself constantly like bask in this negative light due to the attention that you give yourself or the things that you're constantly thinking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's why, you know, I have this little jar over here, which is my good things jar, or like what was a good thing to happen today jar, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll just take a slip of paper and I'll write it and I'll toss it in there. And you know, I got that from Tim Ferriss,
Mm.
and it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, I'm I'm very aware that someday, and probably someday soon, I'm gonna have to write that I'm happy I didn't die today, right? And that's probably
Yeah.
gonna be the best thing that happened to me that day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all right, man. It is what it is, because you know what? That's good enough. That's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's something that I think about a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. You know, like self-worth and just, the whole concept of doing things for others, right, and putting them above ourselves is something we've talked about quite a bit. Um, and I know I personally always feel like I lean towards that, right, of just doing things for others. And I feel like I always tell myself that no, I don't think of myself less important than others. I just enjoy doing things for others more. But I think, you know, me being honest with myself, there's also a part of me that also just does think, I don't mean as much as others sometimes, and kind of being able to evaluate your self worth and giving yourself credit for what the good things that you do accomplish is something that people like us we struggle with, you know, and that's another thing we've talked about, just praise and things like that. But I think one thing that I've kind of tried to work on and kind of try to think more about is allowing myself to cheer myself on more, right? Because at the end of the day, it does it feel nice to be praised by others, right, or being recognized for something? Sure, but at the end of the day, like I'm just starting to focus more on being happy for myself, right? And like kind of like you were saying with Jordan Peterson, what was that rule that you said? Treat yourself like you're
One who you're
like
responsible
yeah,
for.
like yep. Like I think I'm taking that more into consideration and more into a reality, right? Of just if I had to view myself from a third person, right, and how to treat myself the way I treat everybody else, like I would be praising myself a lot more, right? And I would be um I would be just so much more encouraging, just would allow myself to feel my victory so much more than I do. Right. And I think that's just a lot healthier thing to do and a lot better thing in the long run for me to do. So that is something that I like try to keep in mind more now when I, especially when like I downplay things to myself, right? Because I probably always downplay things to others, but like it's more of a battle of just not downplaying things to myself and just being happy with the progress that I do make, right? Because the way I talk to myself and the way I hold the standard that I hold myself to sometimes is not something that I would do to anybody else, right? It's like, so why do I treat myself that way? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I deserve to be treated better too? So I agree. That is kind of a concept that I've been thinking about lately as well.
Yeah. Um, I think that made me think of something that I've tried to stop do as much is because as soon as somebody would try to praise me, I'd immediately try to be like, oh, it's not that big, right? Or it's not
Mm-hmm.
that big of a deal. Or I'm just like, oh, I just got lucky. Or, find a way to discredit it immediately. And, maybe that speaks to the beliefs I have internally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it kind of might touch a little bit on where my current self-worth is or whatever the case may be. Like it, and I've tried to stop that a lot more because maybe I am worthy of that praise, right? I fucking did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm so willing to accept my failures, but when it comes to accepting my accomplishments, I'm like, nah,
Nah.
it ain't that big of a deal. It ain't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it kind of sucks, man. I will say that's something that kills your soul a little bit at a time every time you do it
Mm-hmm.
because it never takes me to a good place whenever I've done it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, I mean, I think some very interesting thoughts. It's I've I've definitely been enjoying that book. I will say that
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard read though. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know how many times I had to reread the same paragraph just because like it's really hard to understand if you're not like 100% focused on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You let your mind wander, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, bro. You'll be like one paragraph in and you'll be completely lost. You're like, oh my gosh, it's like, what is he talking about? Um, but it's nice because he kind of breaks it up into like numbered paragraphs. So he starts kind of with paragraph one, and then he'll just keep going and he'll number it up and up and up and up and stuff. And so it's easy to kind of split it up. So it's almost kind of in like the Bible because it has like verses and stuff and
Yeah.
chapters. And so it's like, damn, so you have to read one of those. And then when you're done, you just like sit back, see where your thoughts go, write down whatever questions you have,
Mm-hmm.
or even like as you're reading it, you'll quote something or you'll underline something or you'll write a question with regards to what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I go and discuss this with my friend and we talk about it and we kind of share with each other what we've been doing, what we've
Yeah.
been thinking with regards to the chapter. But this has probably been one of the most challenging reads I've ever had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like I was always so used to being able to read something and understand it.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell I was going to be able to get all of this, man. Oh man, it's been an experience, but it's been really rewarding. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I've definitely enjoyed it, and I'm excited to start the other one that we've gotten um, on. I think the next one is called "On Searching for a Soul," on Man's Search for a Soul, or something like that. I don't know.
That sounds
Um,
dope.
yeah, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
But another book that I think is really interesting, and if you haven't had a chance to read it or listen to it, actually, because to listen you might be the better option. Audible. Kevin Hart. Have you heard his book,
No, I haven't. But I
bro?
know it's out.
Bro, do yourself a favor right now and purchase that bad boy.
I have a
It's
bunch
like
of Amazon credits, so I mean Audible credits, so
Yeah, it's like 13 hours long, but it is so good. I promise you, probably finish it in like a day and a half.
Look it up right now.
It's the longer one. He has two. I want to get the shorter one too. The shorter one is called The Decision. The other one is like Can't Make This Up, I think is the name of that book.
Yeah, it says I can't make this up.
Yeah.
So that's the one I should get.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably get both of them if you have
Yeah,
the
you're
credits
right.
for it, but start with the I Can't Make This Up one
Okay.
because like he reads it himself
Mm-hmm.
and oh god, it's so good, dude. It's also a book that you can't push through at like 1.5 speed. You have to read it at like 1.0.
Wow, how do you even do that?
I don't know, man, but I had to in order for his comedic like flair to make sense. Otherwise, it was just like
It's kind of whack.
way too fast for me to understand. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded really bad at like 1.5. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I respect Kevin Hart a lot. So I was like, I'll do this for him. Nobody else. I'll do it for him. And we just happened to have a couple of road trips that were like 3 hour drives, both and in one direction. So then we
Mm-hmm.
had to do that there and back. So it was 6 hours. So we were
Yeah.
listening to that book for 6 hours and
Mm-hmm.
just made the time go by really fast because he was having me, laughing my ass off on the car ride. But highly recommended. One of the quotes that I have written down from his book, right, is like treat each moment like a seed that grows into other moments. And I really like that.
Mm.
And when you listen to the book, I'm not gonna talk much more about what happened to the book, but it having that kind of attitude is something that I feel like I've observed more often than I've been that person to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I'm not the most social person. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the one that's willing to talk to whoever.
Yeah.
But my dad is.
Hmm.
And so my dad would go and he'd make friends with whoever he saw. He'd be like, "¿Qué onda, amigo?"
Mm-hmm.
To like whoever it
Just
was. It could
random
have been like,
people.
yeah, yeah. And he immediately like he made friends everywhere he went. And like it's funny because sometimes he'd come home with a basket full of fruit or like a basket full of veggies and shit. And
Mm-hmm.
like he'd come home with like a bicycle or like a whatever. And he'd be like, yeah, the guy I talked to the other day gave this to me. He's like, he liked me, so he gave me this. And I just like, I never say no to stuff. So then
Yeah.
I came home with it. And it was just always one of those things where I was like, man, it's like, damn, it's, and that's what being a friend with everybody can do for you.
True.
Um, but it was one of those things where as a kid growing up, I was always kind of like I had that feeling where I was kind of like embarrassed of my parents just
Mm-hmm.
because of you didn't really speak English, and my dad was always like dusty and dirty from working construction and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom like refused to talk to anybody unless like I was there to translate for her,
Mm-hmm.
unless like she had to do it and it was like it needed to happen right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she could say a couple of things and hopefully get the gist. But yeah, so I grew up with that. So I refuse to pick that up. Even though like as I look back, that's probably one of the biggest regrets that I have with my childhood is not
Yeah.
picking up that skill of just going and making friends with everybody and trying to hope like, you know, um, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it reminds me of the Tecumseh poem. Have you heard of that poem? I feel like I've shared it with you before.
I think so.
Here, I'll pull it up really quick so I
Mm-hmm.
can read it and not mess it up. Because I really respect that poem, and we actually learned about him the other day too in school, which is interesting. We were learning about the Civil War because there's like a fort over here because it's on the East Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and we were supposed to do like a historical site visit,
Yeah.
but we had to do it online. But we had to watch this documentary on BBC about like um, about the uh, yeah, we had to watch about the Civil War, and we
Mm-hmm.
had to watch BBC like a two and a half hour long documentary about it. and then have like a discussion over it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, I have the poem right here.
Okay.
But so it's titled "Live Your Life" by Chief Tecumseh. And so live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion, respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and the joy of living. If you see no reason, if you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones into fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home.
Hmm. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, I really like that poem. And it's something I found like in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one of those things, I think it was like my background for a while.
I think you have
um,
mentioned that before.
yeah, but I don't know. It makes me think of that too, just because it's one of those things where there's no reason for you not to try to make friends with everybody that you meet. They can be different from you, but it doesn't really matter, right? Because ultimately, we could all use another friend,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it's just somebody that says hi to you.
True. Yeah, I feel like for me, like I guess I think college has really allowed me to kind of expand that. I feel like I've always been kind of friendly, but I feel like in college I've been like at least the last few years, I'm just more open to kind of talking with everybody and just
Like sixth year.
yeah, that kind of happens when you're when
You let it
you're here
run.
for that long.
I'm just fucking with you, bro. No, but I understand.
Because that's something a lot of people commented on with me is like I'm very approachable, just very easy to kind of talk to, and just people feel comfortable talking to me, and I think that just comes from me just allowing myself to kind of talk to more people, and I'm just more willing to start conversations with people. And I don't know if that's because of the different positions that I've held, where it was more expected of me to try to do that, or just I maybe not expected, but I took it upon myself more to kind of put myself out there more for that. So then it kind of just gave me some freedom to do that. So
Yeah. Just the applied responsibility.
hmm
You put on a different hat. I think that's one thing that I understand too. Like if let's say I work at Subway.
hmm
Like when I worked at Subway, I talked to everybody that came through the door.
hmm
Especially like if it was one of those people that came in when there wasn't a lunch rush.
yeah,
And I was just like, "Hey, how you doing, man?
could be
What's
the
wrong
only
with
person in
yourselves?"
there, so you just kind of converse
Yeah,
with them.
yeah, yeah. They're the only person, and you just like you're making a sandwich, and you just commented on it and be like, "This is a sandwich you get every time."
hmm
Be like, "Hey, why don't you try it with this? I think you'll like it." And they'd be like, all right." Or you just have like a simple conversation about that. You ask them how the day is going, and
hmm
sometimes they'll share with you more information. Sometimes they don't want to talk, which is totally just fine. But
Yeah.
you know, outside of Subway, that me just approaching a random stranger, being like, "Hey, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, hey, how you doing?" No, was absolutely not gonna happen, right?
Frowned upon. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, it's one of those things, man.
for sure. Well, Any last thoughts? I feel like we can kind of wrap it up there. I feel like we kind of hit on a lot of really good things, and don't want to make this too long for the people.
Yeah, I feel like we have a couple awkward pauses you can cut out, shorten it up. But I think that seems like a good place to end.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys if you stuck it out this far. Um, if you like what you heard, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Really help us out. But I like this impromptu type of conversation where we just kind of went with whatever came to mind. Um, and just had like a normal conversation. This is kind of what we enjoy doing, and we hope you guys were able to follow along and kind of learn a few things, maybe just about us, even if it's not about yourself. But hopefully, we got you thinking about something. Maybe it's not even regarding the video, but maybe you got thinking about something else. Um, so again, we appreciate you guys for tuning in and staying this long. Share with whoever who you think might enjoy this kind of content. But other than that, got any parting words for the people?
No, man, go out, do great things.
Exactly. You heard them. Go out and do great things. And then hopefully next week we have an interview and, have a wonderful week. And we'll see you guys again next time. So peace out.